Do you ever find yourself like having empathy for the guilty?
Sure. Yeah, you do that. I mean, keep in mind that the defendant is innocent until proven guilty, and so you have sympathy for everybody in the courtroom. You have sympathy for the victim. You have sympathy to some extent for the person that's charged. It's human nature to feel that way.
Welcome to Creepalachia. It's a monumental day in the studio because we have a legend in the courtroom, in the guest seat, and we have an equally legendary reporter of the court in the past. But Judge Kirk, thank you, sir.
Thank you, JD. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun. And it's Judge Kirkpatrick for those that are going to the ballot box. Y'all know we don't do politics, but my man is running for Supreme Court of West Virginia. Is that the correct
Supreme Court of Appeals?
Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia. And, we got to get my man in there. There's a lot of good people. There's good people running, but my man has some experience, which we're going to get into. And where do we start, Jozy? Where did you grow up? I don't even know.
I was born in Beckley, but I was raised in Fayette County. Whenever I was 6 years old, my family moved to Mount Hope, and we lived there for 5 years. And then when I was 11, we moved to a coal camp in Fayette County outside of Clifftop. The camp was called Landisburg. My father worked for Clifftop Coals. And we lived there for about 5 years. I attended a 4-room schoolhouse. The first and second grades were together, third and fourth, fifth and sixth, and seventh and eighth. And so we had one teacher for 2 grades, and the teacher would teach on one side of the room and then give work to do and then walk over and teach on the other side of the room. So I virtually learned nothing. I went to Nuttall High School and really enjoyed Nuttall at Lookout. Had really good teachers there. Went 2 years, and then my family moved back to Beckley, and I finished up at Woodrow Wilson.
Flying Eagles, ain't it? Is that the
Flying Eagles?
Yeah, buddy.
Indeed.
Man, how cool. So basically watch the school parts on Little House on the Prairie, and that's what you did.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Perfect. And Jozy Moore is in the studio, who has followed many of Judge Kirk's cases throughout the years. Mm-hmm. Thank you for being here, Jozy.
Yeah, thanks.
If y'all don't know Jozy by now, you need to go back and listen to the previous 12 episodes we've done. But obviously, I'll get it out of the way. We covered the Natalie Cochran trial thoroughly, mm-hmm. and Judge Kirk was the judge on that trial, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But we got to walk our way up through this. So coming out of Woodrow Wilson, did you know, I'm going to go into law? This is what I want to do.
I did from an early age. Whenever I was living in Mount Hope, I'd go to the Mount Hope movie theater. It was only a quarter, and popcorn was 10 cents. And I'd go to the matinees, and I saw the movie To Kill a Mockingbird, black and white movie, and I was just enthralled. And I was especially excited about Gregory Peck's performance in the movie. And it changed my life in the sense that I decided right then that I wanted to become a lawyer. I know it sounds corny, but it's really the truth.
No, it's not corny. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't read, but To Kill a Mockingbird, from my recollection, is about justice, everyone deserving the best defense possible, that type of thing.
And Atticus Finch was the defense lawyer. And that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a defense lawyer and to provide service to everyone and make sure that everyone was treated equally and fairly across the board.
That's why you had Atticus tattooed on your back that you were showing us.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly. Now that's cool. So where'd you end up going to school at?
I went to the University of Kentucky. My dad said, son, you can go to college anywhere you want to, but if you go to UK, I'll pay your tuition and room and board. And I said, go Cats. And the reason he said that is because he and my mom both went to Kentucky and they met there. And so he was a big UK fan, sports fan, and loved the school. It was a little bit big for me because I was used to 400 kids at Nuttall, and then I was kind of lost at Woodrow, and then went to the UK that had 20-some thousand students. And so I was kind of lost. And in retrospect, I probably should have gone to a smaller school that would have given me more personal attention. But I liked it, and I graduated there, and I was admitted at the WVU College of Law, and graduated from law school. Whenever I got out of law school, I went to Pineville in Wyoming County and became an associate with the Bailey firm. Robert Bailey was Judge Bailey's son. And he offered me a job, and he said, I'll train you and I'll teach you how to be a lawyer. And he did. He was wonderful to me. And I stayed at the Bailey firm for about 3.5 years. And then I went out on my own. I built a building in Pineville, and I was a solo practitioner. I was down there for 10 years.
Nice. I didn't realize that. I lived in Bowman Bottom for like 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
I know exactly where that is.
Yeah, right across from the cow shed.
Yes. The cow shed was a wonderful place that I ate lunch at many times. And you have to be careful how you say that.
Yeah.
Were you doing criminal law initially, like what you saw in the Killamaki?
Whenever I worked with the Bailey firm, I was low man on the totem pole. And so I did property work. I did coal abstracts. No one really wanted to do divorce work. So I did divorce work. And I did a lot of workers' compensation and that sort of thing. And I kind of got tired of that a little bit. And I wanted to expand. And I knew I could do some criminal work on my own. And that was one thing that led me to leave the firm and to strike out on my own. And I did a lot of criminal defense work thereafter.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could see Judge Kirk giving the most amicable divorce, documents to ever be. Like, it's just like, I'm going to be very fair here. But a lot of like lawyers I've spoke with, they figure out pretty quickly, like, this is so much paperwork. Would you say that's the majority of that type of job?
Yeah, it's gotten a whole lot worse now. Before, it wasn't quite as bad whenever I was practicing. Whenever I left Pineville, I came and I joined the Ashworth law firm. John Ashworth and Bob Ashworth, both of them became judges, by the way. The firm was changed to Ashworth and Kirkpatrick, and I practiced law there for 10 years. So I had 20 years of law practice by the time I was appointed to the bench.
Man.
Was that in Beckley?
In Beckley.
Beckley. And what is that title exactly? Like, is it just circuit court judge? Or
yes, I was appointed circuit court judge by Governor Caperton in September of 1995.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I think we need to walk into the partisanship here. I mean, you have judges that have certain moral compasses indeed, but I see it as essentially a nonpartisan position, and your responsibility is to ensure that the law that we have on the books is followed.
Exactly. We're duty bound to do that, and we have to apply it fairly and impartially. And that's what I tried to do.
Yeah. So, did you have to run for that position, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how did you figure out, like, well, okay, I've done this whole law thing, I'm going to run for office? Did you like make yard signs, or what did you do?
I ran in 4 elections, and I was never opposed. So all I had to do was pay my filing fee, and I did go to some ramp dinners and bean dinners, and I would just smile and wave to everybody because I didn't have to worry.
Yeah.
What was that like? Like, do you remember being like an attorney before, like in criminal practice for a judge, and what that was like to have a judge rule one way or another on your case?
Yeah.
Then be the one doing that yourself?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird situation at first. But from time to time, as a lawyer, you're before judges that are maybe rigid or even mean-spirited. Mm-hmm. And I felt like a couple of times that I was abused or jumped on unfairly. Mm-hmm. And I promised myself that I would never do that to a lawyer or a litigant. And I didn't criticize lawyers in the courtroom. If I had a complaint with a lawyer, I called him up or I talked to him after the proceeding and straightened it out. But I didn't want to embarrass anyone because there were a few times that as a lawyer I was embarrassed. And it's not cool. It's not a good thing to happen. And I didn't want to do it to somebody else.
That's good to know that you kind of keep that internally of like, well, I know how this feels, so I got to make sure that I do things, this other way. And, people have bad days, but, in the courtroom, you're not really allowed a bad day. Like any day could be someone's future at risk.
So. And that's right. And as a judge, you look at cases and some of them seem to be kind of minor and you think, wonder how in the world this thing got this far and why is it before me? But it's the most important thing in the litigants' lives. I mean, it's the significant thing that they're dealing with. And as a judge, you really have to understand that.
Yeah.
When were you first appointed as judge?
1995. In September. I took office September the 28th.
And then you so you retired, but then you came back for the Cochran case.
I did. I retired on December the 31st, 2024. And then I was awarded senior status judge. And I presided over the Cochran case as a senior status judge.
Okay. Could you have just gave it over and be like, well, I'm kind of done. Y'all go ahead.
I could have. I didn't want to, and I thought it was unfair to slough it off on another judge because I'd been in the case for 2 years, and I'd made dozens and dozens of significant rulings in the case, and I felt like it was my responsibility to finish it.
Yeah.
Were the other judges appreciative of that as well?
Well, I think they were.
Because at that point, you had 2 really new judges and then 2 judges that had several years, but still very difficult, very complicated case to kind of be brought in at the end.
Some were conflicted out. Some of them had problems, and then we had 2 new ones. And so it was just an ideal situation for me to finish it out. And Chief Justice Bill Wooten understood that, and he was very kind to me, and he was the one that assigned the case to me.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm glad you did it and had that moral compass to say, let's finish this thing out, because when cases, all cases are important, but when cases come up like that are very emotionally charged, and there's also a financial case that has nothing to do with it, but it does because there are certain individuals that were intertwined with the case. I know the defense, part of what they were saying was this has nothing to do with the financial crime, but, regardless, I felt that it did, because you had people that eventually learned they lost, all this money and all these different things, and now we're going through the trial of someone's death. So it was very emotionally charged for this area. And we needed someone like you to come in and say, hey, I brought you all, chicken biscuits to kind of calm everyone down. So
I can't talk about the merits of the case.
Sure.
I can't talk about the lawyers or the defendant or any participant in the case, but I can tell you a little bit about logistics, preparations, and some funny things that happened that have no bearing on the outcome of the case whatsoever. Whenever we knew that this case was going to go, I met with the Chief Deputy Circuit Clerk, Kathy Bays, and we were worried. We were very concerned because my courtroom is relatively small, as you know. The fire marshal will only allow 80 people in my courtroom. And so when you figure my staff and you add in the family members that are entitled to be there on both sides, that left only 33 seats for visitors. And Ms. Bass and I figured that we would be absolutely overrun with people wanting to come to the courtroom to watch this trial. I mean, it was advertised in the newspaper, on TV, that it was going to go forward, and people knew about it. And so we just thought that it was just going to be an avalanche of folks. We thought that the line would start and go down the steps and wrap around the annex. So we developed a lottery system, and we had this complex lottery system so that we thought it would be fair and people could get in and get a seat. We were just shocked to see that on most days, the courtroom was only about half full.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is it was televised live on court TV, and people watched it from their homes and from their offices, and they didn't have to come to the courtroom and didn't want to come to the courtroom. So anybody that did want to come could get a seat without any problem.
That's funny to know.
It was very surprising. It was mostly media on one side, and then there were some family members on the other. But yeah, it was just mostly us in the courtroom, which again, I was surprised by.
Yeah, Jozy was there
well.
every day. What was it, 12 days? I can't remember exactly.
Somewhere 3 weeks?
Was it 3 weeks?
Yeah, probably 3 weeks, because we had some time off and we had some other things going on. So all in all, it was 3 weeks. And when Court TV first contacted me, they said, we're going to film this thing from gavel to gavel. Mm-hmm. And I didn't believe it. And I thought, yeah, they're going to try to get the opening statements and maybe some dramatic moments and then closing and the verdict. And I said, there's just no way they're going to be here 24/7. They were mm-hmm. there every single day for every single minute. And if you're familiar with trials, there's a lot of boring parts. There are a lot of downtime and parts that I may be working and I may be deciding things, but any viewer would be bored out of their skull because nothing is going on in terms of drama,
sure,
in terms of emotional outbursts or testimony or things like that. And so they were there the whole time. And technology has improved so much because I was used to these big, bulky television cameras all over the courtroom, mm-hmm. and you have to be careful and not show any of the jurors. And I would have to make sure that the 3 or 4 camera people in the courtroom were not sliding over and showing the jurors. Court TV had these little tiny cameras, and they had one operator that operated all of them from a joystick, sort of like an Xbox controller. And he demonstrated it for me, and it was really spectacular. He could control every camera, all these little tiny unobtrusive cameras from this joystick, and he could turn off cameras, and he could blow up the picture on cameras, and he could do any of that. And really, you just didn't even see the cameras at all.
That's really cool. And it's way different than the OJ trial. You had all these big, massive cameras you shoot sports with. Because I didn't realize that. And for those who don't know, so the Natalie Cochran trial was basically about Natalie being charged with the murder of Michael Cochran by the use of insulin. And for those who follow the show, you all know that I'm a diabetic, and I get, really emotionally involved when it comes to, what I feel is misinformation. Judge Kirk has no opinion on any of this, but I want to set this up for you all on why this was so big. And I think I have a question too that I'm going to ask you about filming in the courtroom.
Okay.
But I think this case, it was seeing, basically someone who people felt had a perfect life. A lot of people really loved Natalie and Michael, and a lot of people were involved. But nationally, obviously outside looking in, there was a lot of relatable factors that people saw in this family because it was just so shocking to hear. But filming in the courtroom. So they had like, I don't know, 6, 7 cameras. I don't know how many cameras.
I think 4.
Was it 4? Okay, there was a lot. They had every angle covered.
Yeah, but they rotated. So they had one facing Natalie. They had another one that was facing the judge, which could also be used to view the witnesses on the stand. And they had another one that was right behind the jury box facing the prosecuting attorneys.
Okay.
So imagine it's been 3.
Yeah.
I mean,
Felt more than that.
It felt like it because they kept switching the angle. So they always kept the one on Natalie pretty well, but the other ones, they would rotate them a lot.
Gotcha. Well, my question about filming in the courtroom. So can a judge decide in particular who gets to film and record versus who is not? Or is it a constitutional argument that, freedom of press is welcome in the courtroom? Like, how does that work? Because we've been told certain cases that we can't film, and I always abide by the judge's rules because I just respect the place. But I'm just curious.
The rule is that you're supposed to have minimal cameras in the courtroom because they can be distracting, and you can have 1 or perhaps 2, and then require those folks to pool the film with other outlets. And that's what I did. And I think that Court TV was really good with that. And some of the others were good with that. And they shared with the local news folks, and they shared with other media outlets. You have to have a balance because you want to have an open courtroom. You want people to know what's going on and have transparency. But on the other hand, you don't want to have a lens in the face of lawyers and litigants all the time and worrying about if the jurors are going to be portrayed on camera and that sort of thing. And I think we struck a pretty good balance in this case, and I don't think the filming was obtrusive.
Yeah, they kept the jurors out of it, and I don't feel like anyone. I feel like it was one of those situations where people forget the cameras are there. It sounds very unobtrusive. So that's the way it should be.
Can I ask, though, like, when Court TV approached you, because obviously I had been in your courtroom several times, like there had always usually been media, even for bigger or smaller cases. So that was something that you were very accustomed to. But like streaming a whole trial is a little bit different. Were you at all apprehensive about allowing that? Or what was kind of your thought process when they initially approached you to be able to stream?
I was a little apprehensive, but again, I didn't think that they would stream the whole thing. I just figured that they'd get bored and they'd get tired and that they would leave for periods of time. Now, we were contacted early on by Nancy Grace and by 60 Minutes and 2020 and of course, Court TV and various outlets, and they all expressed a lot of interest in the case. And so we were prepared. We were ready. We did our homework, and so we were ready for them.
I think y'all pulled it off. The only thing is the projector, dude. Like, it just looked terrible.
I apologize for that. Our equipment is awful. I'm hopeful that by now they've gotten new equipment. The Supreme Court is trying to upgrade every county, every circuit, so that they have usable equipment. And we were sort of far down the list, apparently, and we were using outdated equipment. And we had to patch together private laptops and cell phones, as you well know. We did it. It wasn't the best in the world, but we did.
Oh, no, I think you did a wonderful job. I think that our court system in Southern West Virginia, we catch a lot of crap, and I think you all really represented the way we do things very, very well. So, that was my only technological gripe. I mean, the courtroom's beautiful. You walk in, everything is really nice, but yeah, we're the projector wasn't to national broadcasting standards. If it'd been good to have like a direct feed or something into that laptop, but that just wasn't an option. But y'all did awesome.
What people don't realize, JD, is that not only was this trial filmed nationwide, it was worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
People in other countries were watching it. And one of the bailiffs had a fiance in the Philippines, and she was watching it. We had people in England and Scotland and Australia, and they would contact my office and say that they were watching it. And, as you mentioned, I would provide chicken biscuits and sausage biscuits to the jurors. And somebody from Scotland wrote in a question and said, "What is a sausage biscuit? Is it something like a cruller?"
Right.
They didn't understand what a sausage biscuit was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've watched videos of like kids from England eating biscuits and gravy, and they're like, "What is this?" Like, and they like a biscuit is apparently like a scone or something over there. But anyway, it's a whole thing. That's cool to know. Go ahead, Jozy.
I was going to say, what were some of the other like funny behind the scenes moments?
My sons watched the trial live. They were enthralled by it. I have two sons. They're twins. They're 36 years old. And they would text me occasionally during the trial or during a break, and they'd say, "Dad, your hair's sticking up." Or they'd say, "Dad, you look sleepy. Drink some coffee, for goodness sakes. They're going to call you the sleepy judge." and they would make little comments, and sometimes they'd say, "Oh, good job, dude," or something like that. and it kept things going, and it was pretty lively from my perspective.
Yeah. Well, you became kind of the favorite. Is that? I mean, because let's be honest, this. From me watching it, there was a bunch of characters that developed, and then it's weird to say that, but that's literally how everyone looks at it. Everyone has a personality, and they're who this soundbite says they are. And I didn't see one negative comment about you anywhere. It was
appreciate
just
that.
Yeah, yeah. And you upheld what the jury said, and you upheld justice, and I can't imagine what type of. Because regardless, people's lives. Now, this was a jury, but even still, you do the sentence. People's lives are in your hands, and you keep this jolly demeanor, but you also take the job very serious.
Sure,
and it's apparent.
My sons would ask me, "Dad, aren't you nervous? Aren't you scared? Aren't you apprehensive?" And I'd say, "No, this is what I do every day. I've done literally." A multitude of trials, criminal trials. I've handled dozens of murder trials, big trials. And so once you do it on a regular basis, it's something that you know how to do, and you know what to do. And I really wasn't apprehensive at all.
Yeah.
It
didn't look like, go ahead, Jozy.
I was going to say, was it nice? Because obviously I think I've done maybe 2 or 3 trials with you now that I've covered, and you've been the same throughout. So it wasn't a shock to me to see how you behaved for the Natalie Cochran trial. But was it nice in a sense for you to kind of get that national recognition for the work that you'd really been doing throughout your career? For people to, comment in and say, wow, he's a really respected judge. He's so calm and fair. How did that feel the very end of your career?
It was very gratifying because I'd put in 30 years, sometimes in obscurity, and working hard and trying to be fair and trying to be impartial across the board. And so it was gratifying to see that I got some feedback, positive feedback, and people noticed what I was doing and appreciated it.
Yeah. It's kind of like a walk-off home run in the World Series of a career. I don't know. That's what it feels like to me. But now, as specifics for the case, could she have chosen to have a jury versus you deciding?
Yes, she could have asked for a court trial, a trial just before the judge, or a jury trial. In most instances, in criminal cases, the defendant will ask for a jury trial.
Sure.
They're
and
certainly entitled to one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good to know, because a lot of people don't understand the process. They just know when it pops up. So, and to clarify, on a trial like that, you have to have a 100% vote, or it's a hung jury, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So
has to be unanimous.
Unanimous is the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you reflect on over that 30 years that, I don't know, maybe you regret or you think about more than others? Or like, how do you compartmentalize all these devastating things you're hearing?
It's hard to go home after court. I mean, things linger with you. They have to. You have to dream about them. You have nightmares about some of the things you see in the courtroom. I've done probably over 1,000 abuse and neglect cases, and those are really tough cases because they involve children that have been abused, usually by drug-addicted parents. And so it's pretty tough, and you have to find a way to cut things off if you can. You have to have hobbies. You have to divert your attention to your family and do other things, or else it can really get to you. And lots of judges have psychological problems because of what they encounter in the courtroom.
Sure, I can imagine. What are there any types of cases you haven't overseen? Like, as far as crimes go, I imagine you've done everything from murder to, petty larceny to,
I've done dozens of murder cases, several kidnapping cases, many sexual assault, sexual impropriety type of cases, drug cases, theft cases, almost any type of criminal cases I've presided over. And I've done an awful lot of civil trial work too. Car wreck cases, medical malpractice cases, boundary line disputes, every type of personal injury case you can think of, slip, trip, and fall cases. I'm not sure that there is an issue or a case that hasn't been presented in my courtroom, to be honest.
I think that's important for a statewide position because all of that culminates in experience. So any case in particular, like, for instance, I don't know, let's just say a murder case. Do you ever find yourself like having empathy for the guilty?
Sure. Yeah, you do that. I mean, keep in mind that the defendant is innocent until proven guilty, and so you have sympathy for everybody in the courtroom. You have sympathy for the victim. You have sympathy to some extent for the person that's charged, and it's just natural. It's just it's human nature to feel that way and have compassion for other human beings.
How do you compartmentalize that and say, okay, I hope this person changes their life, but here's what the law books say. Here's what I feel is the correct sentence for this case in particular. Do you kind of, I don't know, harden yourself and say, okay, here's the law, and just lay it out there, and then it is what it is?
And you have to, as a judge, in terms of sentencing, you have a wide array of options to consider. And in most cases, you have prison, you have jail time, you have probation, you have community service, you have commitment to the day report center, you have a fine. You have all these things to consider, and you can pick one of them, or you can use a combination of them. And that's the hard part of the job, to try to decide what sentence best fits the crime, what sentence satisfies society, punishes the defendant, but yet allows the defendant to rehabilitate.
Mm-hmm. Is it ever difficult in that? Because there are some instances where you really don't have the authority to have a say. Obviously, like when there's a jury trial and the jury decides they're guilty, when there's that mercy phase for a murder trial, you don't really have a say. So what is that like for you when your hands are somewhat tied by the law. You may not agree with the jury, or you may not agree with the sentence that you have to impose. What's that like?
You don't have to agonize over it. You're duty bound to follow the law as a judge. And so you impose the required sentence and you go on.
Yeah, makes sense. Have you ever noticed or pay attention to the community reaction to any specific like verdict, or is that something you essentially shut off? Like, I don't see you diving deep in Facebook comments and stuff like that. But,
I've never had Facebook. I do have a Facebook account now that is related to my campaign, but up until then, I haven't even been on Facebook. But naturally, I am sensitive to comments. I read comments in the newspaper. I hear them on the radio, and I watch the news on TV. And I try to take it with a grain of salt. I try to understand that you can't satisfy everybody. You can't make everybody happy. Sure. I try to do the best I can and let the chips fall where they may.
Love it. Did you ever read Jozy's articles? Do you miss them? I know I miss them.
I do. I miss Jozy. She used to come to my courtroom and she'd sit on the back row and she'd give me the stink eye throughout the trial. Just joking. She didn't do that. And she did a wonderful job. And what she did do was to get my quotes. I think she did this for every judge as far as I know, but I know from my experience, she got my quotes word perfect. And that's not always the case with reporters. Sometimes they like to edit. Sometimes they interpolate things and put in their own opinion. But with Jozy's reporting in terms of courtroom comments, they were perfect.
Good deal.
Well,
yeah.
thank you.
I'm the color commentary. Jozy's the factual,
There we go.
Interpretation. I'm the jokester.
Balance.
Yeah. Got to have a balance. I do have a couple more sentencing questions. So as for the process, before the sentencing day, do you receive any kind of recommendations from somewhere on what you potentially should do?
I do. The probation office will prepare what's called a pre-sentence investigative report. And it's a very extensive report that delves into the background of the defendant. And the assigned probation officer will actually go out in the field and talk to people that know the defendant, talk to family members, dig up the criminal history, the educational history, the employment history. Everything pertinent about that defendant will be in the report. And it's a very extensive report, sometimes 40 or 50 pages. And then at the very end, the probation officer will make a recommendation as to sentencing. The statute provides for that, and that recommendation is not circulated. So the prosecutor doesn't see it, and the defense lawyer doesn't see it. The judge sees it. Now, obviously, the judge is not obligated to follow that recommendation, and I probably followed it maybe 50% of the time, or maybe even less. But it's just a suggestion. It's something to go by. But the pre-sentence report is important because it's a guide for the judge to follow. And the judge should understand, and I always comprehended, that this probation officer probably knows a whole lot more about this defendant than I do, at least in terms of background. And so you must consider that in terms of the sentencing.
Okay. Last question about that I have. So part of the process is allowing each side to have people speak their piece. Is there an instance where someone got up there and swayed you, like maybe a mother or a father gets up, or somebody talks about the loss of a loved one, that made you think in that moment, like, well, I didn't quite, my initial interpretation isn't quite right, so I have to change this on the fly? I'm just curious.
Absolutely. I used to appear before a judge that would have the secretary type out the sentence, and the judge would bring that document into the courtroom, and I would appear for sentencing as a lawyer. pleading on behalf of my client, the defendant, and I would just literally fall down on my knees. I would make the best argument I could think of, and please, Your Honor, consider this, consider that. And then the judge would pick up the typed out document and just read it off, and had already made up her mind and already knew what she was going to do. And I didn't want to be that way. And so probably 25% of the time or more, I'd have a good idea of what I was going to do whenever I walked into the courtroom, but I would change, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. It would depend on what the prosecutor had to say. I would listen to the victim, and then it would be very important to me as to what the defendant said, what he or she said in terms of remorse, in terms of what they felt happened and why it happened.
It's a good answer. Because, I mean, that's why I feel it's so important for people to voice their opinion and speak what their feelings are about situations. I mean, obviously, we want to keep it, mainly factual, but also emotions too, because, someone providing a statement about their loss and how devastating this has been and it will be to their world is just as important. And it's good to know that, that's why we have the best system out there, is because everyone has the option to make their voice be known in the court,
It's not publicly. A perfect system. I mean, it has flaws, but it's the best we can come up with.
Sure, yeah, I agree. And what's the hardest job in the courtroom, in your opinion?
In terms of personnel or in terms of my tasks?
Personnel.
A lot of people don't realize that the court reporter has a really tough job. The court reporter has to get down everything that is said, every word that's spoken in the courtroom. And the court reporter is sometimes forgotten. And many judges will just rattle off things and not be precise and not be clear in their speech. Many lawyers will mumble and will slur their words. And the court reporter is required to figure out what is said, because he or she is required, in most cases, to type up a transcript, and it has to be 100% accurate.
Are transcripts always done for court proceedings?
Not always. They're usually in a criminal case, if there's a conviction, there will be an appeal. You can almost always bank on that. And when there's an appeal, then there'll be a transcript that's called for. Same thing in civil cases. The losing side will usually want to appeal, and we'll ask for a transcript to be prepared. Now, if no one asks for the transcript and pays for the transcript, then one is not done up.
While we're on this, we're getting into the weeds, because FOIAs are costing an arm and a leg. And I have a gripe. I'm just saying that, these are public paid positions, and I feel like tax money should already be covering the cost of these FOIAs. But we're running into, I think Natalie's was $800 and some for all the, which I get, paying for the paper and the materials and stuff like that, but
$1 a page.
$1 a page, yeah. So we're being, and it doesn't cost $1 a page to print it, but FOIAs are now requiring labor, and I could see people getting upset over that, because it's kind of making things less accessible, if that makes sense.
I hear you, and I understand. Keep in mind, a lot of people don't understand that unless it's a confidential case involving a child, like an abuse and neglect case or an adoption or something like that, anybody can ask for a transcript. A lot of people think, oh, no, you have to be involved in the case. You have to be one of the litigants or a lawyer involved in the case to pay for a transcript or to ask for one. You can ask for a transcript in any civil case and any criminal case that's ever been heard.
A question: evidence that you pull from a courtroom, can you legally use it on a channel where you make money? Or is there a fine line there? Because I have heard people have made requests in previous cases, not any necessarily we've talked about, that saying you cannot put this, you cannot monetize this evidence, if that makes sense. For instance, like our page is monetized. So if we show a document and say, like, here's the case, yada, yada, here's this document, it's monetized. And they were kind of saying that we couldn't do that.
I don't know of any restriction about that. I honestly don't know who's saying that and why.
Yeah. I mean, and that's all, that's all probably constitutional arguments, because I'm a big free speech guy. Even if you don't like the speech, I want to hear it because it's important. But go ahead, Jozy.
I was going to say, what about our record? Now that, most things are recorded, especially like by the court themselves, can those be requested, and are those publicly available if it is a public case?
You're talking about the voice recording, or you're talking about a transcript?
The voice, like, so say, because typically if a transcript is made, then the court reporter is going to do it off of the recording. But could you not just request the recording?
Okay. Here's the situation. Sometimes there is a voice recording, but probably 50% of the time there's not a voice recording because my court reporters, every single court reporter I had but one, were stenographers. They were what's called real-time reporters, and they had a machine and typed up the transcript live in real time as it went on, and they didn't make a recording. And that's why whenever you ask a court reporter or a judge for a recording and they say, well, we don't have one, they don't have one.
Sure, that makes sense. And I'm glad you said court reporter as your answer, because artificial intelligence, I think it'll be devastating if we start implementing this into that position, because for one, it doesn't speak Appalachian. And you can only imagine how many things they're going to get wrong. If you have Siri, you know what I'm talking about. If you got a little twang, it's going to be hard, because you need someone there that can interpret and take the notes and do the work. So that's cool you said that. All right. So why are you running for this position? Why are you deciding, like, you know what, I'm kind of bored fishing all the time. I kind of want to come back and do this.
Well, everybody says, gee, you were retired and it didn't stick. And what are you doing this for? And really, I kind of wasn't retired, because a lot of people don't know that I spent more than 4 months over in Fayette County. I filled in for Judge Ewing over there whenever he was appointed to the Supreme Court bench, and now is Justice Ewing. And I really enjoyed my time over in Fayette County. And as you pointed out, I did the Natalie Cochran case. After 30 years of being a judge, it's just really hard to quit. And my doctor begged me not to. He said, judges don't do well, lawyers don't do well, doctors don't do well. To just stop cold turkey. And he said, please don't retire. And I said, it'll be a piece of cake. Well, I found that I really like to work. I really like to be of service. And I've always wanted to be on the Supreme Court. I think that is not just an honor, but it's our highest court. It affects everybody in the state of West Virginia. And when this opportunity arose, I talked to my family and they said, go for it. This is something that I'm prepared for. I've spent 30 years in my career working towards, and it's something I think I can do well, and I won't have to learn on the job.
That's why I wanted to talk to you. And I've invited Judge, he's such a humble dude, and I just appreciate you coming on here and talking to us about this. But I think it's so important to have representation like you. And this isn't to slight any other. I mean, vote for who you want out there, but you're essentially like if Mr. Rogers wanted to be a judge. It's like, it's. I feel West Virginia, we need representation like you, especially for Southern West Virginia, to be in there and to have the experience to make these important decisions. For those who don't know, and I admittedly don't really know, how does that Supreme Court judge district work? Are there certain regions people are running from, or is it a statewide thing?
It's statewide.
Okay.
And there are no regions. Two of us are running from Beckley, from Raleigh County. And then there's some candidates up north. And so it's a statewide race, winner take all. And the Supreme Court will affect everybody that lives here in West Virginia.
And it's one position, correct? Sorry, Joe.
There are actually two positions that are open. And Judge Ewing is in the other position, and a gentleman by the name of Bill Flanagan is running against him. And then I'm running for the other slot, and that was the seat that Justice Armstead had. Tragically, he passed away, and that's the seat that I'm running for.
Does it work the same as the United States Supreme Court? Is this a forever position essentially? Or?
Oh no, it's a 12-year term.
Gotcha.
Now I would be fulfilling the remainder of the term that Justice Armstead had,
which is how many years?
6 years.
6 years. Okay. Go
and
ahead,
this is nonpartisan, so it's decided in the primary.
It's nonpartisan.
Yeah, which means, quit the left or right stuff. Let's calm down. Like, why I felt like this fits the show is because many things we work on, Jozy, and there's a few other out there that help me, involves crime and its effects on society, but also infrastructure. Like, Supreme Court rules on a lot of things. So it's important to have someone who's widely versed. What type of things are they working on in particular? Like, what gets escalated to the Supreme Court?
Oh, it's constitutional issues. Every murder case is reviewed by the Supreme Court, and that is really significant. They'll review all kinds of criminal convictions, any civil case that is appealed. That they have the final say in the state. It's the highest court in the state. So issues that affect every West Virginian will be decided by the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals.
Important stuff. Well, there's the info, y'all. Decide what you want. I'd never tell you how to vote, but if you put a check next to Kirkpatrick, it's gonna be a good day. I mean, not that it won't if he doesn't get it, but I will admittedly be sad if my man doesn't get up there in Charleston. So let's walk out of this and into. So you told me that to bring up the Sodder children case, and I'm going to do that. So what did you mean in particularly? And for those who don't know, the Sodder children tragically disappeared on Christmas Eve of 45. I've covered this so many times, and a trace of them hasn't been found since. There were a bunch of different sketchy things that happened during the investigation. Go back and listen to our episodes. We've done a 4-hour episode with Jozy and Miranda Weeks, who is a great-great-grandchild of George and Jenny. But what is your opinion on that?
I have a theory.
Okay.
And I think you'll find it reasonable. And I have to give you a little prelude that's perhaps a little boring, but I promise I'll bring it all together. I mentioned earlier that whenever I was 6 years old, my family and I moved to Mount Hope. We lived in the red brick house, the huge house right in the middle of town that has the white columns out front and the lion statues in the front and a big black gate to come up the steps. It's right across from the Baptist church, still standing. We didn't own the house. We rented the house. And our landlord told my dad that we were not permitted to go in the attic of the house. And she said, we have our personal things in the attic. It's locked, and you cannot access that part of the house, but you can go any place else you want to, obviously. So my dad sat me down and said, Kirky, that's what he called me.
Kirky.
He said, you are not permitted to go into the attic. Don't try to go in the attic. You'll get a whipping if you go into the attic. Well, that was a challenge for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever I was about 8 years old, I would go and try to look through the keyhole and see what was there. And I imagined that there must be a model train layout or sports equipment or gold bullion or something up there. Treasure has to be there.
Yes.
I discovered that one of the keys to the bedroom door lock downstairs would fit the attic door lock.
Mm-hmm.
So I used that key and I accessed the attic. And I did this secretly because I knew that I'd get a whipping if my parents found out about it. And I went up there and I was most disappointed because there was no treasure at all. But what was there was chairs and tables, couches, and weird insignias and robes and paraphernalia that my 8-year-old mind couldn't really fathom, couldn't understand. And I thought it was Nazi paraphernalia. And that's what I thought, my gosh, these people that lived here must have been Nazis, because I was familiar with Nazis. And so I left, I closed the door, I locked it, and I put the key back in the other lock, and I didn't say anything. Years later, the lady that bought the house told me, you know what was done up in the attic, don't you? And I said, well, I wasn't sure. And it was the Ku Klux Klan. That's where the Klan of Fayette County met in that attic of that house.
No way.
Now, most historians think that the Klan ceased and just faded out in the late 1930s or the early 1940s. But I have reason to believe, and I firmly state that based upon what I saw, the Klan was active in the 40s in Fayette County. And so I'll tie this in shortly.
No, this is crazy.
It is sort of crazy. Now, you're familiar with the Sodder incident.
Mm-hmm.
The
Pretty
Sodder
well,
family
yes.
incident, because I know you did a segment on it, and I've read books about it, and my family discussed it. My parents discussed it because this was in the 50s and 60s, which was relatively soon after it happened in 1945. Keep in mind that the incident occurred on Christmas Eve of 1945. Well, if you do a little research and look into the Ku Klux Klan, they were started by a group of disaffected Confederate generals that were very upset over the South losing the Civil War. They were started in Pulaski, Tennessee on Christmas Eve of 1865. Now, the Klan was an early terrorist organization. They were a white supremacist group.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at terrorist organizations and almost any kind of fraternal organization or military organization, inception dates, startup dates are important. They celebrate those dates.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a fraternity in college, and my fraternity was started in Lexington, Virginia in the 1800s. And on the birth date, we would celebrate. We'd have a big party. We would do something to commemorate the start date, the inception date of the fraternity. And the Klan would be no different. And if you look at historical accounts of what they did, where they would do house burnings and church burnings in the South, many of them occurred on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or a few days before Christmas.
No way.
And you can look those up and you can see that. Now, they did atrocities at other times, but Christmas Eve is significant for two reasons. It's the inception date, the start date of the Klan, when it was formed, and people's guards are down on Christmas Eve. You're not vigilant. It's goodwill toward men, and you're not going to be as vigilant as you might be, drinking eggnog and celebrating Christmas and opening presents. And so if you are planning an attack, a vicious attack against some poor victim, Christmas Eve might be a pretty good time to do it.
Wow. Or even back then, it could be a copycat type thing where someone said, like, well, they'll think it's the Ku Klux Klan. But that's the only time I've ever heard that theory. I don't know if I've ever read that anywhere.
It's my theory.
Yeah.
I've come up with it. Now, let me take it a little bit further.
Sure.
There was a bus driver that passed through there and said that he saw a fireball thrown upon the roof of the house. And Ms. Sodder, and also the oldest daughter that slept on the couch, said that they heard a thump on the roof and something rolling down the roof and perhaps catching in the gutter. Then one of the children that wasn't missing discovered a rubber device in the yard afterwards that could have been part of an incendiary bomb or device. Mm-hmm. And I believe strongly that the Klan was involved. This is their modus operandi. This is how they attacked people. This is how they operated. A lot of folks think, oh no, it was the mafia. The mafia doesn't fool around with you. The mafia whacks their victims. They shoot them. They don't burn them out. They don't try to even terrorize them. They shoot them, and the victim sleeps with the fishes. They're dumped in the river.
Sure.
And so I don't think it was the mafia. I think it was an old unholy alliance of the Klan with other folks involved. Mm. Now let me go even further, JD.
Let's do it. Hey, I got tinfoil hat. We want to put it on. I got another.
But you don't have one for me.
Oh, I do.
Oh, okay. I better not.
You better not do that.
Mr. Sodder was a very vocal, outspoken man, and he was disliked in the community. And I have discovered that. He was very successful. He had a trucking company. He trucked materials to the mines. He transported coal in his trucks. And obviously, he was doing pretty well. He had a nice house. He supported 9 kids and a wife. And there was some jealousy. Here was this Italian immigrant that settled in Fayetteville and was doing really well. Now, our GIs were coming back from the war. He didn't serve in the Italian military or in the United States military, but our boys were coming back. And Italy, at the start of the war, was an Axis power, and they fought Italians at the inception of the war. And so a lot of people came back and didn't like this guy that had done so well and had profited off the booming coal market during the war.
Right.
Now, lastly, he was anti-Mussolini, and there was a group of Italians in Oak Hill that were pro-fascist. They liked Mussolini, and that was a big deal among the Italians that were there, and they hated Mr. Sodder because he made so-called dirty remarks against Mussolini.
Yeah, Janudalo that had the insurance policy. So
yes.
that's a main theory that Miranda supports. And there's so much to it. And this is a dumb question, but was the KKK actively against Italian immigrants too?
Yes, and people don't realize that. They think that the KKK was just antagonistic towards blacks. Of course they were, but they were also antagonistic towards Roman Catholics, Jews, immigrants that were considered foreigners, and also organized labor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important too, because Mr. Sodder was very vocal in support of unions.
Sure, yeah.
And coal companies wanted to keep unionization out of the coal mines.
Sure, yeah. And he did have his own sect of friends, but like you said, like disagreements, I mean, people take him serious today, but back then it was very volatile, a lot more volatile. I mean, it's a crazy time to be alive, but at the same time, things were still a lot more volatile back then. So
exactly.
So yeah,
this is what happened, JD.
Okay, tell me.
And I'm not saying these people were smart, and I'm not saying that they had a good plan, because they really didn't, and it was a terrible plan. But the KKK members met in the barn, and they were getting ready to carry out this terrible event. Well, the 5 children that were missing stayed up late that night because they were playing with their Christmas presents. They still had to do their chores, and some of their chores involved taking care of the cattle, the livestock, and closing the chicken coop and taking care of the chickens. Well, they played with their toys until very late. Mr. and Miss Sodder went to bed, and the children realized they still had to take care of the animals. So they went out to the barn, and there was a chance meeting of the children and the KKK participants that were in the barn.
Oh,
well, this was a disruption of the plan, and this was like Mission Impossible. Things went off course, and they didn't know what to do. The oldest boy, Maurice, fought with the Klan members and was killed in front of the other kids, and that terrorized them naturally. The Klansmen carried out the firebombing, and they whisked the children away, and they enlisted the Italians that were pro-Mussolini and didn't like Mr. Sodder to take the 4 living children to Italy. And maybe they were sold into slavery. Maybe, who knows what happened to them. But they were told that if you try to make contact with your parents or your family, you saw what happened to your oldest brother, that will happen to you, and that will happen to your parents. And so they didn't. Now, that's my theory for what it's worth.
Yeah, and of course, all respect to the family, but like at this point, I mean, that sounds very logical. It wasn't just you pick up a phone and call somebody back then. Like getting a hold of people across country,
not harder.
Took a long time.
Exactly.
And them being so young, I mean, obviously they could be brainwashed over time. Shoo.
That's a lot to digest, and I apologize for that.
No, I'm going to call Miranda right after this episode. I'm like, Miranda, have you ever heard that anywhere? Or did you kind of just research and come across
I kind of researched
theories?
it, and it's just a theory that I've come up with, and maybe other people have mentioned it, but I haven't seen it.
I haven't.
If they have. But I really think that it was a conspiracy, that the Klan was the moving party, but I think that the coal management may have been involved. I think that some of the Italians in Oak Hill were definitely involved, and maybe other folks as well, because Mr. Sodder wasn't a real popular person in the community.
Well, so I posted a picture. I think it's important for us not to hide from what we used to do. And I posted a picture from 1938 of the Klan having this huge rally in Hinton.
Yeah.
And then people were like, why are you gaslighting? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, if the Klan doesn't fit under the umbrella of Creepalachia, I don't know what you're doing here.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember, like, this was intertwined, but it was also I think it was well past the 40s and 50s. Like, there was a small sect that kept it going, and there's probably someone still running around today. But do
you think your parents knew what was in the attic?
I I don't think so, because I never told them that I went up there, and to my knowledge, they never went. I didn't want a whipping, Jozy.
Even when you were older, did you never?
I never did mention it.
I would have been scared too.
Man.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
with my parents, you didn't discuss things.
Man, how different things are now. It's like, I have to be so open with, but she is with me too. If she doesn't care about something, she's going to let me know. She's going to be like, Dad, listen, you're full of crap, but, wow, what a story, man. So you talk to me, you love fishing and you live around the Hinton area, correct?
No,
Or
I live just a hop, skip, and a jump, and I get your mail all the time. I get all of your packages, which I open and keep. And the UPS guy gets us all mixed up all the time. But I'm just right over the hill from you. But I do have a camp in Hinton. I have a fishing camp there, and I go there quite often. And my son Robert would like to live there. He just kind of manages it for me, and we fish together, and we do a lot of things together.
Some people get lost coming to the studio, and they'll go to your street. So
that could be a little fun.
Yeah,
that is fun. That is fun.
I'll set up a little studio in
There
my
you go.
basement.
Come on in.
Come on in.
And they're like, whoa, what's going on? So we talked in passing kind of a little bit about Bigfoot. Have you ever had any type of experiences, or what is your opinion on the cryptid lore? I've seen you've been visiting some of the museums and stuff.
Yeah, I've always been interested in that type of thing, but I have never seen any type of creature myself. I've talked to people that have had experiences. I love to interview people that have seen unusual things or had something happen to them. But I haven't seen anything with my own eyes.
Gotcha.
And I was really interested in Mothman because whenever I was a teenager, my dad subscribed to the weekly newspaper, the West Virginia Hillbilly, and it was edited and written by a gentleman by the name of Jim Comstock from Richwood. And my dad read the newspaper religiously. Well, Mr. Comstock was buddies with Mary Hire, the reporter from the Athens Messenger that directly reported on the Mothman incidents from the witnesses. She interviewed the witnesses. She had a lot of weird things happen to her, and she would feed Mr. Comstock information, and he reported on it as it was going on in the West Virginia Hillbilly. Well, I would read that, and I was maybe 14 years old, but it scared the bejesus out of me. This wasn't like Dracula or a werewolf or Frankenstein or science fiction. This was something that was happening in West Virginia, just close by. And so I became interested in it at a young age when it was going on. And then the tragedy of the Silver Bridge occurred. And after that, Mothman just kind of died out. The people didn't talk about Mothman because the seriousness of the deaths and the tragedy of the bridge collapse just overrode all that stuff. So whenever I was in law school, I was walking past a bookstore, and lo and behold, there was a book in the window, and it was The Mothman Prophecies by John Keel. I walked right in without even looking at the book. I picked it up and I bought it. I still have it. It's the first edition, and it's worth some money.
That's awesome, man. Well, if you want to get rid of that, just saying.
How does that fit into, like, obviously, like, being a judge, being in law, like, it's all about like facts, what you can prove. So how does that hobby, how do those two things mesh?
Well, you have to disconnect that hobby from what I did as a judge, because that's something that you like to read about and you like to think about, and you wonder if it's true. And being a judge, you're trying to seek the truth. You're trying to deal with facts, as you say. And it's just sort of it's a diversion. It's something to get your mind off some of the horrors that you encounter from time to time as a judge.
That makes total sense. I mean, you gotta, like, I'm very bad at that personally. I dive into the darkness of the comment section too much, and it makes me lose track of my initial focus of telling stories that I love, but you know, a lot of them involve seriousness and things that I don't love that I still feel are important to talk about. So, so I'll take that as some definite advice.
A couple of weeks ago, I went to the Mothman Museum in Point Pleasant. I was up there campaigning, and I thought, what the heck? I'll go into the museum, and it's wonderful. It's just really nice. And Jeff Walmsley has collected a lot of original things. He's got the notes, page after page, of the witnesses that have written down their personal interactions, what they saw, how they felt. And you can read them. They're under glass, and you can just read all that stuff. A lot of Mary Hire's original articles are there. They have all kinds of Mothman paraphernalia. And really, the whole town is dedicated to Mothman and tourism that's been brought in by that. You can eat a Mothman pizza, a Mothman cheeseburger.
Yep.
You can have a Mothman beer, whatever you want. They've got it Mothman in Point Pleasant.
I love it. Yeah, Jeff, we actually did. I'll have to send you the video. We dove into Point Pleasant very deep. We went to the museum and the TNT bunker area and all kinds of different things. So yeah, it's probably Point Pleasant. If someone says, what can I do for the least money that is so fun, I tell them go to Point Pleasant, because everything there you can do. Now the museum, if you want to go in the back area, it costs a little bit, but it's not much. But the TNT bunker area is totally free, public space. It's just really cool to be around. You can go where the first sighting was, where the power plant was, and all kinds of fun stuff. But well, that's one thing I've been following is you're getting to travel across West Virginia with this campaign. So you're it's two birds with one stone, because that's just fun anyway.
It is. Yeah, campaigning is hard work sometimes, and you have to take a minute or two off. And so, like yesterday, I went to Parkersburg. Well, I had to go into the Hotel Blennerhassett. And the young lady behind the counter was just so kind. She took me up to room 409, which is the haunted room, and showed me everything, told me stories that guests had reported. And I said, gee, I'd like to come back and stay here. Sadly, my wife probably wouldn't go for that. I don't think that she'd want to do that. But.
Yeah, which we would have done this by the time this episode releases. I was telling you, we're going to be staying in room 409. So Blennerhassett's so beautiful, though.
It is.
Yeah, people really need to go. Parkersburg in general probably has some of the thickest lore in West Virginia. They have a beautiful cemetery. It has this statue called the Weeping Woman statue.
Yes.
And it's just a gorgeous, I think it's called Riverside Cemetery. I can't remember. Riverview Cemetery. Anyway, look it up. But we went there too. So, all right. Well, I appreciate your time, Jozy. This is the chance. Anything we're missing out?
I did have one question. So I was told that you have actually seen a ghost, and that there was one in the old courtroom of the Raleigh County Courthouse.
There was a ghost, seemingly, in the present courthouse. The courtrooms have been torn out. I had a courtroom side by side with Judge Hutchison, and sadly, and as much as I'm interested in the paranormal, the ghost wasn't in my courtroom. The ghost was in Judge Hutchison's courtroom, and it was the so-called Lady in Red. And you could see at certain times during the day, and it wasn't every day, you could see a red figure that resembled a woman sitting in the back pew, the back bench of his courtroom.
You saw it?
I saw it.
What was the
now
lore
again?
behind?
The courtroom has been torn out, and so there's no chance to to do it. You could make out the general form of a figure seated there on the bench, and it appeared to be a woman and dressed in bright red.
You never figured out?
No, we never did figure it out. And it could have been the way the light came in. It could have been an illusion. It could have been almost anything. But it was creepy because you could make out a figure,
right?
And you had to look through the window and see it in just the right angle. But you could see what seemed to be a figure seated there in the courtroom.
That's awesome. Doing this show has really made me, I'm 95% there because of this experience I had at Trans-Allegheny. I don't know if you went there yet.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, if you want to visit the Weston area, that is a gorgeous, have you ever seen it?
I have.
Okay. So you've drove through there,
yes,
and it just is a weird feeling when you drive through that town and all of a sudden the second biggest stone building in the world besides the Kremlin is right here in front of you.
Yes.
But yeah, that's the only place I had an experience. Jozy, you ever seen a ghost?
No, and I hope I never do.
Okay. Well, there we go. All right, Judge. Thank you, sir. You'll always be judged to me whether you win or not. Election is in May?
May 12th.
May 12th. Okay. And again, vote how you want. But if you have someone wanting to learn about one of the candidates, send them this podcast. Where can they follow your efforts?
Kirk for the Court. I've got that. I have a Facebook page, and that you can access it that way.
Kirk for the Court Facebook page, and it's probably the most wholesome Facebook page you'll ever come across. I'm just saying, he'll get on there. He'll tell you what he's doing today, and there'll be pictures of like him with Braxy, and it's a good time.
I don't do anything weird, JD.
No, nothing weird. I'm just like, if you want weird stuff, come to Creepalachia. If you want just wholesome entertainment, go to Kirk for Court on Facebook. Jozy, you got anything to plug?
I think that's it.
Okay, Josephine Moore on Facebook. Everyone else, man, this
has
been
a pleasure.
Fun.
Thank you so much, JD.
Yeah, this has been fun. I've really learned a lot, and I love you even more. So thank you, sir, for all your work. And regardless, I want to go fishing with you sometime.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm completely useless.
Oh, I'll teach you.
Okay, perfect. Good deal. Everyone else, before you leave, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Creepalachia on YouTube if you haven't. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, take a minute and leave a review. That'll really help the show be found. And I'm telling fictional stories exclusively on Patreon now. If you want to get your name in the credits as a Cryptid supporter, go there and hear me blab and make up stories to tell you over a campfire. But everyone else, please remember, above all else, long live Appalachia.